Hey, welcome to Love and Liberate. I'm Emilie, your host. I'm a self-leadership coach, embodiment teacher, artist, and an activist for love. Now, I don't mean the fluffy kind of love. I'm talking about the real, the raw, confronting kind of love, the kind that cracks you wide open and liberates you, creating a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. Because that is what I believe life truly is about. So through personal stories and inspiring, soul-stirring conversations on all things healing, embodiment, and spirituality, I'll help you navigate the good, the bad, and the ugly with tangible tools, fresh perspectives, and of course, a truckload of love. Here's to loving and liberating, one heart at a time. Hi, listening lovers or loving listeners. I'm back with another episode. Today is going to be all about forgiveness. And the timing is probably rather right. We've made it through the holidays. We've seen our family. We've faced our patterns. We've probably been triggered quite a lot. And we're also remembered of all the things that went wrong, that could have gone different, and all the people in our life and family, probably mostly, that we want to see changed or different, or we're reminded of all the pain that they've caused us, or none of the above. You just floated through the holidays and the new year is starting and you're thinking maybe about forgiving some habits or some people or some things that you did in the past. Who knows? Either way, I think talking about forgiveness is always a good idea. And actually, I was talking to my maestra, as I like to call her. She is my therapist, coach, mentor, and also teacher in many ways. And oftentimes I have like philosophical or psychological or all kinds of questions. And then I'd shoot them to her and ask, what do you think? And then she responds. And my last question was about forgiveness. And it was like a little meme on Instagram. And it's two guys having a conversation about, should I forgive my parents even if they really wronged me and it was their responsibility to take care of me, but they didn't do a great job at that. So am I really to forgive them, and shouldn't they apologize? So that's the question that I'm basically answering in this episode. I'm just offering you options because I don't hold the truth. You know my stance on truth and all of that. So just offering you options. Whatever resonates, you take. Whatever doesn't, you leave. So we're going to talk about how to free yourself, what embodied forgiveness would mean or look like or feel like, about self-forgiveness. Because this is what the podcast is all about. How can you love and liberate first yourself, and then just naturally the rest will follow. Are you ready? I am. Let's dive in. So forgiveness, eh? Who are you struggling to forgive? Oh, she's diving straight in the deep end. Yeah. Who do you need to forgive? What's coming to mind? Who's coming to mind? Is there a certain, human, a situation, a memory, anything that's coming up for you right now? Intuitively, no need to think about it. Hold it there. It's your body telling you where you're at. And maybe, as a practice, you can keep that specific person or situation in mind as we're walking through this episode with some prompts and some ideas. So the first thing that I want to address is when people believe that forgiveness means condoning. That is not the case. So when I say I forgive you, that doesn't mean I'm completely subscribing to the actions that you undertook or the way you behaved. Not at all. And that's just the most simple but most important distinction to make when we're talking about forgiveness, in my opinion. It's not about condoning. So we're not saying what you did, it was fine, you did great. It's just saying, I am no longer deciding that what you did is having any control or power over my life. And that's what we're actually working towards too. And that's also why it's difficult, because obviously people's actions and words, they have an effect on us because we are community animals, like we are connected. We need to be connected. Connection is our main source for life. And if we feel that the connection is threatened, we become anxious and we become, angry or anxious, let's say. So in order to keep the connection alive, we are looking to maintain some kind of understanding or, connection is the word that I just have to use over and over again. And we do so by holding them accountable and by staying angry and being like, what you did is wrong. And so we're the judge in that way. And by being the judge, we're actually putting ourselves above them. Now, in systemics, family constellations, one of the teachings that I subscribe to and that I've been trained in, we don't believe in forgiveness. Forgiveness is not a thing, because forgiveness implies, like I just said, somebody being better or greater than the other and having the power to redeem or to, decide and judge someone else's actions. Whereas we're in no place to do that, because who are we to say what should have happened? And this is one of the most important revolutions in my healing journey. It's when I understood that forgiving in itself is not even a thing. Let me explain myself better. Somebody did something to me that felt very hurtful and that damaged me in some way or hurt me in some way. Now I have the option of wanting them to apologize and waiting for that apology, and also therefore handing my power over to them by saying, once you take responsibility over your actions and once you acknowledge that what you did hurt me, that's when I will be free again from the actions that hurt me. Are you following? I'm sure you are. And so I remember having this conversation where I was like, oh my God, as long as I'm waiting for your apologies, you are the one deciding whether I'm free. I'm handing over my power to you. You can now decide whether what you did was wrong or not. That's basically what I'm saying. I'm going to say that again. If I'm waiting for your apologies, in some way, I'm waiting for you to decide whether what you did was wrong. If I'm not waiting for your apologies, and if I just move on with my life, I'm deciding that what you did was not something I deserved. And that's the big difference between apologies and... So coming back to the concept of connection as being like the main element for our survival, we so badly feel the need to stay connected to those people that we love and who had the power over us, so much so that they hurt us, that we are more eager or more prone to prawn is, that's a fish, that's not a fish, I mean it's a thing in the sea. We're more prone to wanting to restore and keep the connection with them rather than restoring and keeping the connection with ourselves, because that is what forgiveness really is about. I choose my connection with me over my connection with you. So what you did is now your responsibility. I'm taking back control of my life, and I'm deciding that whatever you did had no power over my self-worth, had no connection to what I deserve, and is no testament of my worth, you know? It's no reflection of my worth. And that's the real magic, where you decide, wait a minute, your actions, your words, they are not mine to carry, not mine to hold, basically. So, again, forgiveness, not a thing. We're not above anybody or anything. Condoning, nothing to do with it. We're not saying, actually, that was fine. No. We're just willing to give up the connection to the person in order to restore the connection with ourselves. Meaning, what happened there did not feel good for me. I do not agree. I'm deciding that that is not okay. And therefore, I'm validating my feelings, my worth, and my own convictions of right and wrong. Another thing that is often a pickle in these kind of forgiveness situations is, if we are to forgive, I'm just going to keep using the word even though I don't believe in the higher lower hierarchy of forgiveness, but if we were to forgive, we're also accepting reality as it is. We're accepting not only that what happened actually happened and that we can't change that, and that the fact that it happened means that it had to happen because it happened. 1. 2, it also means that we have to accept that this person is who they are. They did that, or they said that, and we can't change them. We have to accept them as they are. And usually anger comes in because that's a message of, that's not okay. This is a boundary, basically. Anger is, first of all, is showing you a boundary. And that anger is also resistance towards the situation as it is. And the human as they showed up, you know? So the real wound, sometimes, not always, is, oh, this shouldn't have happened, or they shouldn't have said that, or they should have handled it differently, or I should have been protected, or they should have taken me into account, or any of those thoughts. And then forgiveness becomes, I'm letting go of the fantasy of a different past or reality or story or course of events. And I'm basically mourning the life I didn't get, or the relationship I didn't have, or I'm mourning the person that I thought that I had in front of me, but then actually turned out to be different. And what you're doing basically is you're releasing the argument that you're having with reality. So anger at first is a super important messenger telling you, wow, that's the boundary, that's not okay. And then moving through the anger is going to show you where you are resisting reality. So that's also why anger is such an important emotion, because it not only shows you where your boundaries are crossed, but it's also showing you if you move through it. It's an invitation, basically, anger. If you move through the invitation that anger is, then you can come out on the other end and see reality again for what it is and accept it and move forward with the new information integrated. And I think that's another beautiful way of looking at forgiveness, for me at least, is I'm not seeking forgiveness as a concept or as like another batch of, like healed honor. It's more, I want to integrate my past. I want to integrate everything that happened to me and not exclude that specific course of events or, pain or thing that happened. I want to integrate that because it happened. Full stop. We're never going to change what happened. So the only way is to move through all the feelings that came with whatever that happened so that we can come out on the other end and live integrated with that in our lives. So I know that's a lot of information condensed, but let me just recap for you. Number 1, forgiveness is not condoning. Number 2, forgiveness is actually not a thing because you're putting yourself above someone and you are never in a place to say whether something is right or wrong for somebody else. But what you can do is you can let go of the connection with them and restore the connection with yourself. And then number 3, wanting to change reality or wanting to change what happened or resisting whatever happened or the way humans, acted, is you fighting forgiveness and is you giving away your power. And then the next point that I want to make is also an annoying one because of what I said in the beginning, how important connection is for our survival. The real sticky part of forgiveness is it's about you, it's not about the other person. So how is that possible? Because the other person did something to you and now you're stuck with the consequences of their actions. How is that not about the other person? Well, spoiler alert about life, basically. Everybody is the center of their own world. When somebody is doing things in one way or another, or when somebody is not doing something, it is for their own benefit and is at their greatest capacity. They are not that concerned with you at all times. People are very much busy minding their own business. Even when they're minding your business, it's just a projection of their own business. So forgiveness is not about you saying to the other person, you are okay, or what you did is right. It's about you surrendering to the reality of your life and accepting that your life is the way that it is. So again, how is forgiveness not about the other, but about you? You are taking back control and power of the narrative of your life. So forgiveness also is a lot about narrative. It's about the story that we believe about ourselves because of the things that happened or that were done to us. And the biggest problem about, for example, abuse, whichever kind of abuse, is not necessarily in the act of abuse itself. It is in the fact that the abuse is changing the narrative of the victim's self-worth, So when I am abused, I believe that is what I am worth. I believe that the story of me becomes about, you don't need to take me into account. You don't ask for permission. You can do whatever you want with me. And that narrative is where the self-loathing comes in, and that's where the recurring pain, recurring abuse happens. So a big part of forgiveness, and that's why forgiveness is so important. That's why we need to move through the anger and the grief and all the frustration, because when you come out on the other end, you understand that what happened to you says something about the other person and not about you. And that is the hardest work on the planet. And oftentimes when we hold on to our anger, we never get to that point where we realize, oh, well, wait a second, you're actually an asshole. I'm actually a pretty good human, and I did things best way I could, and there was no way in hell that I deserved the way that you treated me. But if you stick with the anger, you don't come out on the other end where you're like, oh, wait a minute, you're released from my narrative. Like, you can, live your life acting the way that you do, and my value is intact. That's hard work. And we can say these things, but really feeling them and embodying them is quite a different story. And that's why I wanted to also address embodied forgiveness. Because, of course, we say, oh, I've forgiven them this or that or such and so. But have you really? Does your chest still tighten if you think about them? Does your heart still swell? Does your belly still shrink? I don't know. Whatever sensations happen in your body when you think about a certain situation or a certain person, if something in your body is happening, that means there is still work to do there. And actually, some events in our lives, they will forever bring up some sensation in the body, and they always bring up new layers of forgiveness and new layers of releasing and letting go. But every single layer of that process, I believe, is important for your self-worth and for the new narrative that you're creating about yourself. Because some things are just too profound, too deep, and too difficult to just wipe away with one good session of anger release. It's not that easy. A lot of the stories that we tell ourselves are ingrained deeply into our bodies, and they need time and patience and revisiting and revisiting and revisiting and revisiting in order to heal and to gently let go. And in order for our bodies and the memories that are stored in the bodies to feel safe enough to be released, and to know that now it is a safe time to be felt. Because probably emotions were pretty big, and then it takes time. And that's embodied forgiveness. It's not about being able to say, oh, God, woo, finally forgiven them. I'm done. Forgave them? Forgiven, in a way. We're done. Yay. That's not how this goes. It's about acknowledging when there's a tension still, that you can just address it with love and stay with it, and not needing the other person in order to resolve this tension in your body. You don't need to talk to them. If you can, that's great. If they listen, even better. And if they apologize, oh my God, yay for you. But that is not the goal. The goal is to acknowledge what is alive and real and true for you in that moment, moving through that, and then coming out on the other end. So in that sense, rage for me has been a massive doorway to forgiveness. It's through a lot of my anger release that I've felt amazing love and release and relief, really, from the tension that I held around things that happened in my life. So yeah, embodied forgiveness, you know. If the body wasn't allowed to say no, it can never authentically say yes. So that's what rage is for me, you know, to like properly feel that no, feel that boundary, and then come out on the other end. And speaking of boundaries, I think that's just the most important thing to understand also about forgiveness. When you forgive, it's not necessarily saying, oh, and now the door is wide open again. No, oftentimes forgiveness is also about cutting ties, you know? It's also about releasing them, or the kind of connection at least that you used to have, and understanding that now that connection has changed or, you know, dissolved, or transmuted in a different connection. And then, yeah, I already touched upon it, but self-forgiveness is then, that like the key element, and that's usually where we end up once we move through all the motions, is where we're like, oh, I'm holding myself accountable to having experienced this situation in which I actually was a victim and I couldn't do anything else, but still I'm kind of angry at myself, or I'm still feeling that I should have acted differently, or if I, then they, or, you know, stories like that. So a lot of times when bad things happen to us and we forgive the other person, or we release the other person, I think that's a better way of putting it. That's when we are faced with the anger and the resentment or the frustration we still feel towards ourselves. So self-forgiveness is basically the most important part. And it's like acknowledging that punishment is not growth. Like martyrdom is not cool anymore. Like that's so 2000. We're not doing that anymore. And yeah, it's also not erasing accountability. It's really just about acknowledging that you did what you could and that you are not in the wrong by having an experience that did you wrong. Make sense? So yeah, another cool question for you. Are you still holding yourself hostage of some kind of situation? Is there some self-forgiveness that could be in place for you? Maybe you can think about that. And yeah, what would self-forgiveness look like for you? And then, yeah, I think another thing for me is the integration being forgiveness, and forgiveness then being like a product of, like a fun byproduct of self-love, self-forgiveness, and integrating the past. And then forgiveness is just like, it just comes flowing out of you. And then again, forgiveness actually being the release of somebody that you're actually, like, you're holding on to them. Or at least you're holding on to a certain idea or belief of them, that they could be different, or that they, well, could apologize, or that they could have known or done better. Well, they didn't, so they couldn't. At least that's my belief. I'm a firm, very firm believer of we do at every single moment in our lives, at any given moment, we always do our best, and our best is sometimes just really effing shitty. That is the truth. But still, I believe it's our best. Yeah, so quite some thoughts, quite some ideas. I'm interested in what's coming up for you, because I can imagine that people listening, you have, lived through quite some things, and sometimes sometimes it's too big to jump to forgiveness, and then I just hope that you heard maybe little bits left and right that you can use as a step in your forgiveness process. And also, can't emphasize enough how important it is to address forgiveness as a process, like it's not a one-time thing. It's not I wrote the letter and I burned it and now I'm done. Well, yeah, for sure that was good and that felt lovely, and it could be, absolutely, it could be. But usually the things that we're carrying into our lives for years, they're probably not done with one letter. And they'll revisit you and they'll ask for a little bit of your attention. And if you give it, then they'll leave before you know it. Those little visitors of the past, visitors of growth, however you want to call them. Am I being too poetic now? Never too poetic, Emilie. I know, I love poetry too. So, to conclude, rather than an act of kindness towards the past, I see forgiveness as an act of devotion towards your future, allowing you to write the narrative about you and your worth, and taking back your power. That's what I think forgiveness is really about. And to conclude with my favorite quote, I don't need you to change for me to be free. I'm going to say that again. I don't need you to change for me to be free. Boom. Mic drop. Forgiveness is quite the journey, and I'm super curious to hear about you, your process of forgiveness, anything you'd like to share with me. I love to hear from you. You can email me or find me on Instagram. All of that in the show notes. And I've linked the book before, but my favorite book on forgiveness is The Choice by Edith Eger. I'll put it in the show notes as well. This Auschwitz survivor, she blew my mind. I wish you a lovely rest of your day, wherever in the day you're at. And here's to love and liberating, one heart at a time.